So I guess that the next CR, the next continuing resolution date is February 8th. So if you enjoyed this government shutdown, you'll get government shutdown 2, the revenge, on February 8th, unless there's some sort of deal that gets cut. Okay, so meanwhile, over the weekend, there were a couple of big marches. One was the ProLife March. The other was the Women's March. The ProLife March is one of the great events that happens every year. Hundreds of thousands of people show up in Washington, D.C. to protest the Roe v. Wade decision. For those who don't know, the Roe v. Wade decision is legitimately one of the worst judicial decisions in the history of the United States. It stands up alongside Dred Scott as an egregious violation of human rights, as well as a breach of constitutional protocol. There is nothing in the Constitution, nothing, 0 things about your right to kill your own baby. Nothing. Okay, in fact, there's a good case to be made that the Constitution of the United States, which is dedicated to protecting equal protection of the laws, that should apply to unborn children. That the idea that you should be able to kill a child for convenience is just plainly insane. Right? This is the case the pro-life movement makes. They say the 14th Amendment guaranteeing equal protection of the laws should apply to unborn children. The Roe v. Wade decision, which is based on a bunch of pseudoscience about what babies, what fetal development looks like and when babies are viable and all of this stuff, it's sheer nonsense. It's been garbage forever. It's based on a series of cases that established a non-existent right to privacy. Now, there is a right against unreasonable search and seizure in the Constitution of the United States. That is not the same thing as a right to privacy. You do not have a blanket right to privacy, certainly not one that extends to you doing something as non-private as going out to a doctor and having that doctor perform a surgery on you that kills a baby. That is not a private act. Okay, it is not a private. Your medical records may be private. Right? And they're guarded against government unreasonable search and seizure. But if you're acting on a third party, right, under libertarian principles, libertarians can take a pro-life position here. If that baby is a baby, you do not get to harm it. Just as if I am a person, you do not get to harm me. Right? The latter is probably more questionable than the former. So the fact that as far as the humanity of the people involved, the fact is that the pro-life march, it's demonstrative of the fact that there are a lot of people in the United States who still care about civil rights. It's so funny. The media do this routine where they talk about the great civil rights issues of our time. Now, they're always trying to make things akin, to liken, make analogies between race and women's issues, or race and gay issues, or race and transgender issues. None of these comparisons hold. Women are not treated remotely like black people were treated in the United States today. Gay people are not treated remotely like black people were treated in the United States. Also, the idea that homosexual acts are on the same par as color of skin is inane. It just logically does not hold. To suggest that even if there were government regulation of homosexual activity, which I oppose, by the way, right? I'm a libertarian. I oppose that. But even if there were, that is not the same thing as regulations on somebody's race. Right? Race is an immutable characteristic. Sexual activity is activity. Right? Your orientation may be immutable. Maybe. I mean, there's some scientific evidence that goes both ways. But there's no question that activity is mutable. Right? All activity is mutable. So it's not quite the same thing as I'm discriminating against you because of the color of your skin. So that analogy doesn't hold either. The transgender analogy certainly doesn't hold. The idea that transgender people in the United States are being treated like black people in the United States, or that these two things are akin, that the disorder that is gender identity disorder or gender dysphoria, whatever you wish to call it, that is akin to being black, is just insane. Again, there is no manifestation in behavior with regard to being black. There is manifestation in behavior with regard to transgenderism inherently, so long as you are claiming you're a member of the opposite sex. In any case, there is one civil rights issue that is very much akin to the civil rights issues that we're facing black folks, and that is the treatment of unborn children as second-class citizens, or worse, as chattel. Right? The truth is that when you're talking about the murder of unborn citizens, what you're talking about is more on par with slavery than it is with Jim Crow. You're talking about killing. You're talking about the treatment of people as property. Right? What you're talking about when you say that a mother has the right to abort her baby for any reason whatsoever is that baby is her property and she can dispose of it as she will. The people who are marching in Washington, D.C. deserve the same respect as civil rights heroes as the media tried to accord to the women's marchers. I mean, the media have been making this big deal out of women's marchers. Again, women have never had it better in the history of mankind than they have in the United States today. They just have not. Okay, and anybody who argues with this knows nothing about world history or about multiculturalism. They're celebrating cultures very often that hate women, that despise women. But the women's marches nonetheless have been paid honor and tribute by the vast majority of media outlets. They're given front page status. My understanding is that the attendance was way off this year from the women's marches last year, because the women's marches last year were coincident with Trump's inauguration. They had millions of people attended those. I don't think the women's marches this year were anywhere close to that. What I'm seeing is that, let's see, it looks like they have a list here over at heavy.com. So in New York, there's about 85,000 people, I guess. That is not close to what it was last year. In Richmond, Virginia, it was like 1,000 people. In Chicago, Chicago was the only place where it actually increased. Apparently, there were 300,000 people who participated in the march. There were only about 12,000 people in D.C. Last year, drew 500,000 people. 500,000 people. In LA, a lot of people showed up. There were about 700,000 who participated last year. There were about 500,000 who participated this year. A lot of bored people who feel like marching on a Sunday. The weather was good yesterday, so I guess that if you have nothing better to do, I guess you can go and march. Also, all these women, I mean, they weren't watching the football games, so I guess they left their boyfriends and husbands at home and decided to go march for women's rights while their husbands sat home and ate Cheetos and actually enjoyed themselves. So again, the idea that these women are marching for anything material, I'm wondering what exactly they're marching for. They always say equal pay for equal work. They've achieved equal pay for equal work. If they're marching for broader acceptance of opposition to sexual harassment and sexual assault, I don't know what they're marching for, since I'm not sure who is in favor of sexual harassment and sexual assault outside of Hollywood executives and apparently all of the fellow actors of the actresses who are speaking at this march. Nonetheless, Jessica Chastain appeared on Saturday Night Live to push the women's marches, and here's what she had to say.
But I'm really excited to be here, especially today, because this weekend is the 1-year anniversary of the Women's March. Yeah. And everyone knows women never forget an anniversary. So today, hundreds of thousands of people were out there for the cause, and they are so, so brave, because it's the worst flu season ever. God bless them. I wish I could have been there marching alongside them.
Hey, we'll march with you, Jessica. Yeah. I'm always wearing practical footwear.
Girls, let's tell them what's up. You don't own me. Don't try to change me in any way. You don't own me. Don't tie me down, because I'd never stay.
Okay, is this funny? Did I miss the part where SNL turned into literally just a fundraiser for Democrats? It's really, really awful. Remember, this is on Saturday Night Live, a show that used to be funny at some point, and now we've got a bunch of women who can't sing. First of all, if you can't sing, don't sing. Okay, I'm a good violinist, and I don't make my violin playing the centerpiece of what I do, because I'm not at the level of Hillary Hahn, right? These women cannot sing at all, and yet SNL features them every week singing. I guess that the Me Too movement means that they also get to sing badly. But they get to sing more often because I guess that they're social justice warrioring. Jessica Chastain, by the way, is unbelievably wealthy, right? Jessica Chastain made at least a couple of $1 million for The Martian, and people were complaining, oh, Matt Damon made $18 million for The Martian, and Jessica Chastain only made a couple of $1 million for The Martian. Right, she's in it for like 10 minutes. Was Jessica Chastain even in The Martian? Like, I don't even remember her being in it, right? The entire movie is Matt Damon on Mars. That's the entire film. Of course he made more money. Also, Matt Damon happens to be something called a box office draw. Right? Nobody goes to see a Jessica Chastain movie. No one. I like Jessica Chastain as an actress. I think she's good. But the idea that people went to see Zero Dark 30 because they were desperate to see Jessica Chastain in a film, what has Molly's Game earned? I want to look at the earnings for Molly's Game. Okay, Molly's Game is now out. So let's look at the box office. Let's see if we can get some box office stats for that massive hit. Right? It has now earned $28.1 million. Miss Sloane, right, which she also starred in last year, earned a whopping $9.1 million at the box office. Okay, the last time I'm going to look up Jessica Chastain's IMDb, because whenever people complain about the wage gap in Hollywood, it makes no sense whatsoever. All of her films that have been successful were successful because everyone else in the film is a box office draw. Now, let's just be totally frank about this. Here are the films that she starred in where she was the leading lady. Okay, Woman Walks Ahead. Never even heard of it. Zookeeper's Wife, earned nothing. Miss Sloane, total box office bomb. Crimson Peak, The Martian, Matt Damon star, made lots of money. A Most Violent Year, very small film, and it's her and Oscar Isaac. She's very good in it, but again, very small film. Interstellar, she is not the star of it. Matthew McConaughey is the star of it, and it's a Christopher Nolan film, so it made lots of money. The Disappearance of Eleanor Rigby, made no money. Salome, Mama. She's Mama in Annabelle. Okay, but that is not actually, or no, she's Annabelle in the movie Mama, which I've never even heard of. Zero Dark 30, like, these are not big box office draws. None of them. Zero of these things are big box office draws, but we're supposed to worry about her wage gap with Matt Damon? Okay, like now I'm gonna read you Matt Damon's IMDb, okay? Okay, Matt Damon's IMDb. Here are the films that Matt Damon has starred in over the last few years. Okay, he was the producer on Jason Bourne, which made $1 bajillion. Okay, he was also, let's see, what did he act in? So he was in Thor Ragnarok, where he was uncredited. He was in The Great Wall, which made $1 bajillion in China. Jason Bourne made $1 bajillion. The Martian, $1 bajillion. Interstellar, $1 bajillion. Elysium, which was a big budget, but it busted. The guy's actually a box office draw, and then people are like, oh, well, why is she earning less than Matt Damon? Okay, what women are marching for? If you're marching for we want to be treated equally, then I'm going to treat you equally. You suck at singing, don't sing ever again on national TV. Okay? Let's just start with that. And also, if you're going to stand for equality, I'd like half of Jessica Chastain's paycheck for every movie that she makes.